everyone, welcome to our video tutorial for this cat bolero jacket that you can see Melba wearing here. So I hope you enjoy it. Please like, share and subscribe, and hope to catch you soon. Thanks. Okay, so to make this bolero you'll need some yarn, and I'm going to use this one here. It's a wool blend. It's in this graduated colours. I actually had made something up previously with it, and I decided to undo it and use it for this bolero. I think it's going to turn out really nicely with this pattern. So you can use any yarn. Obviously, being a bolero or a jacket like this, it's probably going to be a colder weather project. You could make it out of any yarn that you like. Yeah, I'm going to use this wool blend. You'll need a crochet hook that corresponds to your yarn, and I'm using a 4.5mm. You'll need some scissors to snip your ends. You'll need a darning needle to weave in your ends. You may benefit from having a stitch marker. I don't know, I don't think I'm going to use it. I might use it and show you where you could use it if you wanted it, but you know, it's only optional. And you may or may not need to take some measurements of your cat. If your cat is with you, probably just trying it on as you go is going to be good enough, but you can take some measurements, and I'll talk about that as we move through the tutorial. So if you're making this for a cat that's not with you, then you might benefit from some measurements. So yeah, tape measure may be required. Okay, so to make this little bolero, you'll need to know how to create a magic ring. You'll need to know how to make a chain, how to slip stitch, how to single crochet, and how to do this stitch that I call the double crochet. And like I said throughout in the video, I don't know what it's called exactly, but I'll show you that stitch. Like I said, I call it just the double crochet. So I think that's pretty much all, other than weaving in your ends and sizing this garment so it fits your cat well, particularly around the armhole areas. So other than that, it's a super simple beginner project, and let's get started. Okay, so to get started, we're going to make a magic ring. Now, I don't run through in any great detail the techniques for this tutorial, so if you need to brush up on anything, then please do. I'll show you how I make my magic ring, and if you make it a different way, that's fine. So I just wrap the yarn around my fingers, cross that end over. My hook comes under, I pull up a loop, and then I pull up a second loop. So that's just one way you can make a magic ring. There's lots of different ways. So if you want to make yours a different way, then of course it's fine. Okay, so chain 2 here. And then we're going to put 6 stitches into the magic ring, and we're going to do double crochets, or this is what I call them. I don't actually know what they're called, to be honest, but I call them double crochets. So yarn over, insert your hook into the magic ring, pull through, so stop halfway with a double crochet, and then yarn over again, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through the remaining 3. Okay, so do that 5 more times. So yarning over, pulling up, yarning over, pulling up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull up a loop, and that's into the magic ring, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through all 3. So go ahead and make 4 more of those stitches into your magic ring, and I'll be back when I've done mine. Okay, so I've got my 6 stitches, my 6 double crochets into my magic ring. Now I'm just going to pull on the end and tighten my ring. So just draw it together. Sometimes it needs a relatively firm pull. And then you're just going to find that first stitch. So there's the chain, and then you're going to just find that first stitch and slip stitch, to join that first round. Okay, so just pull it a little bit tight again, and that's round 1. Now chain 2 here, and in each stitch we're going to put 2 of those double crochets. So yarning over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, insert your hook again, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, now in between, from here on out, in between, we're going to do a chain in between these stitches. Okay, so into the same stitch, do another double crochet, and then chain 1. So moving on to the next stitch, we're going to insert 2 of those stitches once again. So in each stitch, let's start that one again. In each stitch, you're going to insert 2 of these double crochets. So at the end of this round, you will have 12 stitches, and each of those stitches is separated by a chain. Okay, so keep going, working your way around. Do your 12 stitches, and I'll meet you at the other end, and we'll join this end together. Okay, so I'm just inserting my last stitch in this round, and then remember at the end to chain 1, and then we're going to slip stitch across into that first stitch. And that's round 2. So you can just check that you've got 12 stitches. Just remember not to count the chain. Okay, so you've got a chain in between each stitch. Now we're going to move on to round 3. Now find that little gap in between your chain in the previous row and the first stitch. Okay, and then you're going to insert your hook into that space. So now we're going to be working into the chain spaces. Okay, so same stitches as before, that double crochet, then chain 1. So just 1 double crochet into that chain space. Find the next chain space, and you're going to insert 2 double crochets. Now remember to do that chain 1 in between, so you're making the chain space for the next row. And then in the next, find the next one across, just put 1, oops, forgot to yarn over, just put 1 stitch in that next one. So we're alternating 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so keep going all the way around to your other side, and I'll meet you when you get round this side here. So you'll be ending on a 2. Okay, so you'll be placing 2 stitches into your last chain space there. So I'll meet you when we get around to the other side. Okay, so I'm round at the end of my round 3. Now your last chain space, just to be really clear, is not this one here next to the chain. It's this one here. Okay, so I'm just going to insert my last 2 stitches into that chain space. And at the end of this round you'll have 18 stitches. So if you need to go back and count those, then just do that. And then all we do after chaining 1 is we slip stitch into that first stitch. Now why we chain 1 at the end there, we're not actually ever working into that chain space, that last chain space, but it just helps to keep the garment sitting a bit flatter, so it helps to loosen it up a little bit. Okay, so from here on out, we're just going to repeat that pattern basically. So chaining 2, finding that first chain space next to the chain, working 1 stitch in there. And the only difficulty really is that you might forget to do the chain 1 in between each stitch. Okay, the next stitch or the next chain space, just 1. So we're going to increase our repeating pattern by 1 single each round. Okay, well, so we'll be 2 singles and a double, 2 singles and a double. Our previous round was 1 single and then a double, 1 single then a double. So now we're 2 singles and a double. So my next one is a double. So just remember, like I said, to chain 1, then put your second double crochet, chain 1. So my next 2 chain spaces will just be single stitches, chain 1. Moving on to the next chain space, just 1 stitch in there, and then the next one will be 2. So keep moving along, and I'll meet you at the end of round 4. Okay, so once again I'm coming up to the end of this round, and my last chain space there will contain 2 stitches. So you always finish on 2, and that's kind of how you know that you've repeated the pattern correctly. And you can always go back and just look and count, so you can see you've got 2 there, so 1, 2, 2 there. Then chain 1 and slip stitch. So we're just going to continue with that repeating pattern. So now you've got 24 stitches. So the next round will be the same, starting in the same way, chain 2, find that space just after the chain, and then you'll insert 1 double crochet. I must look up and see if that's got another name. I don't know. It's just, to me, a double crochet. I don't know if that's its name or not. So forgive me if it's not. And then moving on to the next chain space, you'll insert 1 double crochet. Moving on to the next. So now, since we're in the next round, we have to add that extra single. So 1 more single. So this one will have 3 singles and then a double. 3 singles and then a double. So chaining 1. So my next one will be my double. So the things to take note of here are just that you're repeating the pattern correctly as you slowly increase, and that you're remembering to chain 1 in between each stitch. So that's my double. So I've got 3 singles and a double, and I'm going to work that all the way around. Now you're going to keep doing that repeating pattern until you get to the size that you want. Okay, so I'll come back soon. I'm going to do a few more of these rows. So basically you're increasing it to the size that you want until you make the leg holes. And I'll actually just go and get one that I've made previously and show you how we'll just keep increasing. So I'll be right back. Okay, so here's one that I'm actually still in the middle of making, but what you can see here, so here's the center, and I've just been working it out by increasing that by that 1 stitch in each, each repeating pattern as I move around. Now, how wide I've made this one, and it will depend on your cat, it will depend on the needle that you're using, the hook that you're using, and also the yarn that you're using. So here it's 24 centimeters across, and as you can see here, this is where the armholes start to come in. So what you'll need to do, so this is just to sort of give you a bit more of a perspective, this is how, so here sits along the back, this is the armholes here. And eventually there'll be 2 ties where it ties at the chest, and then there'll also be, and I still haven't done this one yet, it'll tie here at the belly. And what I tend to do is do a wraparound tie, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, so what you're doing is you're increasing to the width that you need so that can wrap around over your cat's back, And I'll actually, when I edit this video, I'll actually put a picture of Melba wearing this so you can see how this sits. I'll put that into the video. But yeah, you'll need to keep going until for your cat you've got enough length on either side until you start your leg holes, your front leg holes. Okay, so keep moving around, just increasing that pattern as I've shown you. So in this row, I've increased to 3 singles and a double, 3 singles and a double, and I'll work that all the way around. The next round will be 4 singles and a double. The next round will be 5 singles and a double. The next round, if you need it, will be six singles and a double. So you just keep increasing until you've got to the size that you want. And in this previous one for Melba, and it'll be different. You know, this is just to give you an idea though. I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rounds. Okay, so that's including those first 2 rounds where we're not doing that repeating pattern. But so 7, I've increased to 7 singles and a double. You may not need to go that big. You may need to go bigger. It all depends on your cat. Like I said, the yarn that you're using, the size hook that you're using. This is where it's worth draping it over your cat and see if it's sitting at the top of the shoulders. Okay, so you just want this part to sit at the top of the shoulders, so then this is where the legs will enter into. Okay, so keep on going. I'll come back to you when I've got to the diameter or the radius that I want. So keep on going and keep your measurements in mind for your cat. You can take a measurement over top of their back from shoulder to shoulder to give you an idea of how big you need to go. Otherwise, try it on your cat. Stop where you think that you need to stop for creating the armholes, and we'll talk about that after. So I'll see you once I've got to the size that I want. The one thing I just want to come back and mention quickly is just be careful when you're moving around to not pull your stitches too tight. Now, I tend to be a crocheter that crochets on the tighter side, but just because what will happen is it'll start to misshape. Okay, you can kind of see it's happening a little bit with mine, but it's okay. It's easily flattened out. But just be careful that you're not pulling too tight, especially when you're joining at this end here. Okay, just try to keep it sitting as flat as you can. Okay, so I'll keep going. I've just finished my round of 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. Oh. Actually, I need to go back and count that one. That's good when that happens. Okay, so I'm at my 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2. So I'm going to have to go and find my mistake in that row. And yeah, keep on going, and I'll meet you soon. Okay, so I've done as many rows as I want to for Melba around. I've ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 singles in between my doubles. Okay, so now there's going to have to be a little bit of working out the size that you need on your own. So, you know, there's obviously cats are anatomically similar, but their proportions can be a little bit different. So how I'm going to do this for Melba is, so we're going to create the armholes now, the front leg holes. So I'm going to start my row as before, and so we're not using the pattern now. The pattern, yeah, we're no longer doing the pattern here. So I'm going to add 4 single double crochets. That gets a bit confusing. So 1 double crochet in the next 4 chain spaces. I'm just starting off my row or my round as before. And then I'm going to create a chain to accommodate my front leg hole. So where exactly you start your chain on this edge here will depend on the proportions of your cat. Okay, so what I am doing for Melba is I'm putting 4 stitches first. I could maybe even do one more. Let's do one more actually. So you can kind of do what I'm doing as a bit of a guide, but otherwise this is where you know, you'll have to work it out for your own cat. Let's do 5. And now I'm going to start to make my chain for the front leg hole. So again, how big you make this front leg hole is entirely up to you. The key thing is you just don't want it to be too loose and definitely not too tight, because you're just going to restrict your cat's movement too much. So I'm going to start to chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's not going to be enough yet. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, let's try with 18. So 18 is the same, like, so if I've chained 18, if you've changed to 18, I want to skip 9, because that's half of 18. So 9 accounts for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, so that it counts for the stitch and the chain. Okay, so if you're just counting the chain spaces, you want to count 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And this is where you can use your stitch marker if you want to. I'm not going to use it. I'm just going to you know, eyeball it. So if you've chained 18, you want to skip 9. Now what I suggest you do, just to make sure that you've got enough chain there, I tend to add 2 more. Okay, so add a couple extra, and then work your first stitch. Actually, that should be the next one over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, the next one over. So I'm going to insert my first double crochet into that 10th stitch, and you can just pull that one a little bit tighter. So you can see there I've created this hole that's going to be for Melba's front legs. Now again, you know, it's always difficult with these sort of patterns, because you've got to work it out on your own. You're like, chaining 18 might not suit the yarn that you're using, the hook that you're using, the size of your cat. So you have to kind of work out how you want this to be. And then what you'll do is you'll continue around working those 1 double crochet in each chain space until you get across to the other side, and then you'll do the same thing that you've done here, just working backwards. And again, your stitch marker might help you. So for example, I will need to have, so I've got 5 here, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I've skipped 9, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I'm working into the 10th. So I haven't got my stitch marker here just close by, but in theory you could put a stitch marker here. So that's where you need to do your last stitch and then start your chain on the other side. Okay, I'm just going to count back after, and you see, you know, stitch marker is completely optional, but if you want to mark where you will start your chain, then you will mark over this other side. So go ahead and work your stitches all the way around until you get to that point where you need to start your other side, and I'll meet you there. Okay, so I'm round to my other side, and I'm at the place where I need to start chaining. So all I'm going to do is just do exactly what I did on the other side. So I do my 18 plus my 2 extra, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 and 18 and 2 extra. So just to recap this, just in case it wasn't clear on the other side. So if I'm chaining 18, I want to skip 9 chain spaces. Now that accounts for the stitch plus the chain space. So if you double 9, you get 18, okay? But I just, because it's easier just to count the chain spaces, I just divide the 18 in half. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay? And then I add, and I would advise you to add, just add 2 extra, okay, to your number. So 18 chains, just ignoring this extra 2 for a minute. 18 chains means 9 chain spaces here. So each 2 chains accounts for stitch plus the chain space. Okay, so I want to skip 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then I've just lost that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And so I want to work into this space here with my first double crochet before I continue on, and then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 left. Actually, I've started 1 too early over here. This is where a stitch marker helps. You know, it's not a big deal, but I'm going to go back and correct this. So you want to have the same number of stitches on this side as this side, okay? And I haven't. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, yes, I do. Oops. Oh, I totally do. I'm more right than I thought I was. Yes, so you want to have the same number on each side. So I've got 5 on each side. So I'm just going to put my last 5 in here. Now at this point, before you go on to the last round, or the second to last round really, but the last round of this pattern, what I would do is I'll just try this on your cat if you can. Just try it on without doing this final round, and just make sure that it sits okay and that these aren't too small or too large. Okay? Okay, so we're going to move on to the final round, and actually just as you were trying on, you will notice that what is meant to happen with this back part here is it's supposed to fold over around behind the neck. Okay, so you will notice that it won't sit up on top of the neck like that. You will fold it over. Okay, so just if you were wondering about that. Okay, so now we're moving on to the final round, so chaining 2. Now it's just starting off exactly the same way, and then what we're going to do is work into each chain space, and then we're going to work in. So we skipped 9 here, or I did. You might have skipped a different number. So we're going to work 9 of those stitches into the chain space here. And then we're going to add those extra, well, it's up to you. You can add an extra 2 if you've got the space, or just an extra 1 to account for those 2 extra chains. Okay? So each stitch, obviously, there's the stitch plus the chain. Okay? So go ahead and work a round of just 1 double crochet in each chain space. When you get to your chain here, work your 9 and then add an extra 1 or 2 depending what space you've got in your chain. You might only need 1. If it's too loose, add an extra 1. Okay, or you know, if there's too much gap between the stitches, add an extra 1, and then you'll just continue around adding your 1 double crochet into each stitch. Do the same on the other armhole. Whatever you do on this side, obviously you do the same on the other side, and then you'll finish off this round, this final round in this pattern. We've got one more round after that where we add a round of single crochets, and then in that single crochet round we create the ties. So go ahead and finish this final round in this double crochet stitch. I'll keep going. I'll meet you back here, and I'll perhaps at the end of my adding my stitches into the chain. So don't forget to chain in between your stitches, always chaining in between your stitches along here, even along here, okay? I'll meet you when I get down towards the end of this chain. Actually, I'm back just a little bit sooner. So what I mean by working into this chain space is you're just working your stitches into the chain space, a little bit like you did with the magic circle at the beginning. And remember to chain one. Okay, so keep on going, and like I said, I'll meet you at the end of my chain. Okay, so there I've added 9 stitches into that chain space, and because see how I've got this space left, I'm going to add 2 more. So add enough stitches to fill up that chain. Okay, so make sure it's well filled up, and you know, it doesn't matter too much if you add an extra 1, an extra 2, perhaps no more than an extra 3. Okay, and then you'll just continue on working again, once again back into the single chain spaces there. Oops. So just check that you've got it evenly spaced along the chain there. And you can see that looks pretty even. Okay, and then continue working around. Like I said, you'll do the same in this other chain. So I'll meet you at the end of the row here. Okay, so we're moving on to the final round. So just chain 1 here. And what we're going to do is we're going to put 2 single crochets into each chain space. Okay, so no chains now, just in each chain space we're going to put 2 single crochets. Okay, so work your way around, and we're going to, in this round, we're going to create our ties. Okay, now the ties, there's no sort of set place to put them either. So what you can do is you can work out on your own cat where you would like the ties to sit. So what I do is I create one for the chest, and then I create one for the belly. Okay, perhaps I can show you on the one that I'm not yet finished with. So on this one, I've started to create my first chest tie, and it's close to, well, it's about 2/3 into my armhole there. Okay, and then I'm going to create so I've started to work my way around it, and I'm going to create my second tie soon. And again, you can work this out on your own cat where you want the tie to go, but probably around the ribs. So I'll be starting that soon here. Maybe I'll do one more double crochet set of 2 single crochets, and then I'll start my tie. So what I'll do is I'll just do a few more single crochets around on this one. So just 2 single crochets, no chain in between, as I said. Just in each chain space, 2 single crochets. And when you get to where you want to add your first tie, and I think I'll add it in my next one here, just do 1 single crochet and then make a chain, 2, 3, 4. Now what I tend to do for this size hook and yarn, approximate, you know, similar size yarn to this one, is I do 35 chains. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So go ahead and chain the length that you want. So this is the chest strap. So they don't need to be super long because they'll join at the center there, at the chest. So just long enough so you can tie them. So like I said, I do about 35. You could do, you know, 30, 40, depending on the size of the hook that you're using and the yarn that you're using. I'm going to go ahead and do 35 again, so I'll meet you after I've done that. Okay, so I've chained 35 there for my first tie, and like I said, it's about in the first third of this first front leg hole. And then all I'm going to do to create my tie is I'm just going to slip stitch along the length of the tie. So one slip stitch in each of your chains, slip stitch, just pull through, and then you'll work all the way along your chain with slip stitches, and then you'll put your second single crochet back into that same chain space, and then you'll work around 2 single crochets in each chain space until you get to where you want to create your second tie. So it'll depend. It'll be probably just under the leg hole, so you want it to go around the belly, so it'll probably be in one of these first 2 chain spaces that you'll start to create. I'm going to create it right from the edge of my leg hole here. Okay, again, you can check that on your own cat and see where it needs to fall. You could certainly, you know, start it along the leg hole somewhere. If the leg's sitting in here like this, then it would be behind the leg. You want it just behind the front leg. So you could, even do it in one of these last ones here. And then depending on whether, so what I tend to do with these second ties is I do them so they'll wrap under the belly and tie at the top. You don't have to do that. You can just do short little ties that will tie underneath the belly if you want to. Okay, so I'm just doing my slip stitches down on my first tie. So obviously when you create your ties and you've found your place for your second tie, you'll do those 2 single crochets in each stitch until you come to the point, and this is again where you know, some stitch markers might be useful. You'll make your ties on the other side in exactly the same corresponding stitches, and then you'll work 2 single crochets all the way around to here, and then we will have finished. So I'll meet you when we get back round here. Okay, so I'm just finishing off here. I've put my last 2 single crochets in that last stitch, and actually in this one, this is just slightly different than what we've been doing. I'm going to put 2 single crochets in that very last chain space as well, and then we will just yarn over and pull through. Now just to go back, you can see that I've put my ties, I've done the belly tie slightly longer. I've only made this one so it ties just underneath the belly. Like I said, you can tie it, do it long so it ties up on the back. And so just, yarn over, pull through, and snip off your end. And then all that's left to do is just weave in your tail end. So just thread your darning needle with one of your ends. You've got 2 ends to weave in this project, so just thread with one, and then just try to make it so it's nice and neat on the join there, and then weave down. And if you're using graduated yarn, obviously you'll need to weave into the right colour, so just weaving that through. So I'm just weaving along my blue colour there, and then double back. It's probably a good idea to do this 2 or 3 times. And then I'll go through one more, but that should be nice and secure in there. And then you've just got your last one to weave in after you've finished with this one. So I'll just snip that one off. Snip that excess off, and then yeah, go ahead and weave in your center tail, and then you're done. You've got this cute little, oh, I just need to fix that up a little bit, but I'll fix that up off camera. And then you've got this cute little, it looks like a little turtle. But it's actually super practical, this type of little, so it adds some extra warmth along the back, and it's really easy to put onto your cat and size, so it's really easy just to tie up, and it just adds that little bit of extra warmth, maybe for old bones, or if you're outside and you need just a little bit of extra warmth. Now this one, depending on the size of your leash, you might be able to fit, if you've got a cat that goes out on leash, you might be able to fit your leash through one of these holes, or just underneath would also be fine. So congratulations, I would love to see what you've come up with and how yours has turned out. Please send some photos along if you've got time to catventurous.community@gmail.com, or you can tag us on social media at catventurous.crochet. So thanks so much for being here. Please let us know what you think in the comments below, and we'll hope to catch you soon. Bye. Yeah, you're so good. So good these days.